next assessment criteria now, which is 1.11 or 1.11, which is identifying the personal safety advantages of being mentally alert at work. So what's this one about, being mentally alert? Okay, well, it is what it is. Okay, it's being actually there, isn't it? Being there, in the mind when you're working operationally and not having other things on your mind. Things burden you from your home life. And I've seen it happen many times before where security operatives act too quickly and aggressively, and their response is, "Yeah, well, sir, I'm going for a hard time at work." And it's like, well, we shouldn't be bringing that to you, should you? Shouldn't be bringing that to work. And in fact, you're never going to get away with that as an excuse. It's mitigating circumstances. If we say, well, look, Your Honour, the reason I punched him because he said this about my mum. My mum's actually quite ill at the moment, so that kind of struck well, no. At the end of the day, if you're not mentally fit to work, then you shouldn't be at work. You should have called in sick, and if you do go to work, you're expected to act, obviously, professionally at all times. So something I used to do before work is always kind of take half an hour out before a shift just to clear my mind of anything in order that, when I do work, I go to work, I can kind of act professionally. So being mentally alert at work will help you increase reaction time, won't it? Because you'll be more on the ball, not thinking about other stuff. Will help you give a better awareness of potential hazards because, again, you'll be more switched on the lookout for things. It will allow you to better assess situations and increase your potential to prevent the escalation in the first instance. To see a situation kind of escalating and then be proactive to deal with it rather than, of course, to be reactive. The next assessment criteria now, which is 1.12, 1.12, which is to state the benefits of reflecting on personal safety experiences. So, of course, reflection is a powerful tool to enable you and your colleagues to learn from experience and improve your workplace practices. So working in security, no matter how experienced you are, of course, it's a continuous learning curve. So self-reflection and debriefing is so very important to both operational and psychological improvement. So let's look at 6 steps you should follow following an incident debrief. Okay, so step 1, reflect on what happened. So what does that mean? And this will be within your team. So think about what happened. Why did it happen? What went wrong? And what can we do better next time? Step 2 is recognize trends and any poor practice. So think about, does this problem occur regularly at any particular place or time? Can we reduce or stop these types of incidents happening again? And is there something that we were doing wrong? Okay, step 3 is share good practice. And so think about what you did well. Does everyone know what you did? How can you share that information for them? Is extra training required? And does it need to be put in a policy? Okay, so step 4 is learning from what happened. So how can we make sure it doesn't happen again? And can we improve something for next time? Step 5 would be update policies, practices and procedures. So are our policies, practices and procedures up to date? And can anything be added or improved? And then step 6 would be monitoring the progress. Okay, so how can we record future incidents better? How can we monitor the effectiveness of any changes made? And when and how can we reevaluate our future performance? That comes to the end of the section. Just now, very briefly, it's going to go back through each of those assessment criteria just in bullet points and just to summarize. So the learning outcome of this lesson was to know how to minimize risk to personal safety at work. So by the end of this session, learners will be able to, 1.1, identify responsibilities for personal safety at work. Okay, so I think what we discussed about the employer's obligation under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, Section 2, and the employees under Section 7. Okay, so under Section 2 was to conduct risk assessments and provide appropriate training, instruction and personal protective equipment where required. And us as employees or self-employed would be to follow that guidance, instruction and training, and of course wear any personal protective equipment provided. Next assessment criteria 1.2 is identify situations that might compromise personal safety. So things like lone working, dangers of that, interrupting crimes, etc. There's a point you read and abide your assignment instructions. Don't put yourself in such situations, and if you do, make sure you've got a ready-made exit strategy in place. And what's the exit strategy? It's something to get you out of the situation quickly and effectively if need be. The assessment criteria 1.3 is identify the risks of ignoring personal safety in conflict situations. Okay, so that's the risks are, of course, a risk of escalation and non-violence, you getting injured, you being held responsible for your actions or inactions. 1.4 will state the personal safety benefits of undertaking dynamic risk assessments. And of course, that's to be suitably prepared and allows you to explain to the court of law your reasons for what you did or what you said. And so it's a calculated thought process of your actions. You remember what it was, what we used? So we had step back, assess while you assess the situation by thinking about who's involved, any potential weapons and where it's taking place. Think about what help you would need, evaluate your options, and then respond while continuously reassessing. 1.5 was list of ways to minimize personal safety to yourself at work. So, don't bite off more than you can chew, realize your own skill set and capabilities, use choice speech, follow assignment instructions and any PPE you're provided with. If you're doing any manual handling, follow the basics. So feet slightly apart, bend for your knees, keep your back straight, keep the low close to your body, etc. Okay, next assessment criteria is 1.6, wasn't it? Recognize the different types of personal protective equipment relevant to the role of the security operative. So there are things like metal detectors, CCTV, body-worn cameras, radios, earpieces, mobile phones, personal alarms, torches, gloves, masks, etc., etc. 1.7, so state the purpose of body-worn cameras or BWCs, and of course the purpose is to be able to score evidence against offenders, they deter crimes, for self-protection, to curb behaviour, which could be for you, security operative, and of the customers, and of course to identify offenders. 1.8, which was to identify strategies that can assist personal safety in conflict situations. So of course that's using your conflict management skills, things like building rapport, using active listening, using problem solving skills, then of course your awareness of the whole situation, so acceptance, using a dynamic risk assessment, working in teams, etc. 1.9 was describe limits of your own responsibility in physical intervention situations. So that's of course working within your own skill set. So don't bite off more you can chew. And of course acting according to your assignment instructions. And of course sometimes it'd be better to back off to a situation even if you've had the training. Remember again your dynamic risk assessment, where you're thinking what's the worst that can happen if I get involved, what's the worst that can happen if I don't get involved, and then you're expected to choose the path of action which ends in the least adverse outcome. 1.10 was identifying the different types of harm that could occur during physical intervention. So got harm to the service user and you could include things like injury or death and or post-incident psychological issues. So don't get physically involved unless there's actually no other choice. And then if you do, tread carefully, or at least remember you will be judged for your actions or inactions. Okay, so we've got 1.11, which identify the personal safety advantages of being mentally alert at work. So first of all, how do you do it? So before work, take half an hour out, clear your mind of any issues at home. So in order you can just focus on the job at task, at work. And by doing that, it means it's going to quicken your reaction time, obviously make you better, make you quicker to be aware of potential hazards, allows you to move more accurately and assess situations better, allows you to be pretty much more proactive rather than reactive to stop stuff happening in the first place. And 1.12. It was to state the benefits of reflecting on personal safety experiences. So, of course, that's to stop or to help you stop similar situations from happening again and deal with any psychological issues that may result. And so you need to consider those 6 steps, don't you? And what are they? Well, we've literally just been through them. So if you've just forwarded to the end of the video here, then you can just rewind 5 minutes or so in order to go back through those.